Welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about why do we need inquiry for awakening. I also wanted to remind you that if you like these videos, please subscribe, please share, please like us so that more people can benefit from this. So why do we need inquiry for awakening? You see, presence, our true nature, is already here. This is not something that happens in the future, right? However, most of the time we are not aware of it. We are not aware that presence, our true nature, is already here. You know, Papaji used to say, everybody is enlightened. They just don't know it, right? So the reason why, even though presence, our true nature, is always already here, the reason why we don't know this moment by moment by moment is because our attention is not at rest. So that means our attention, rather than following what arises or engaging with what's coming up in a moment, our attention could instead be directed inward and could rest in the truth of our true nature. You know, eventually, as we do that, as more and more and more time, as you spend more and more time resting in our true nature, then eventually that, you know, our true nature takes over, right? Takes over, and that is usually together with other elements like trust when we experience awakening. So one way of really training our attention to be here, right? Because we can go very directly, we can just go like, let's just be here. And that is, of course, easier said than done. And especially when past is present, when circumstances arise, when your physiology is affected, when there's thought, feeling, sensation, emotion, it's sometimes very difficult to simply, you know, just say, let's just be here, right? So, you know, one way of training our attention to be here, and especially when past is present, is to follow the steps of inquiry, which are steps that lead us into rest, into presence, into knowing of our true nature. So, you know, and that, of course, as I said before, that cuts through the mind, right? You know, we tend to focus on content. We tend to focus on what arises. Why is it here? What's going on? How can we fix it? We don't focus on the movement away from our true nature, nor do we focus on our true nature itself. And that's what inquiry does. So when you are dealing with circumstances that are challenging in any way, I always invite you to sit, but sit by, or start sitting by sitting here with your eyes open. Noticing the weight of your body where you are sitting. Noticing your feet on the ground. Good, beautiful. And then, you know, either speaking aloud or speaking quietly to yourself or writing it down, you can remember the circumstance or the situation or the, you know, challenge that you are dealing with, where you don't seem to be able to find rest right now, rest or peace. And so when you are aware of that, instead of focusing on content, let's focus on the sensations that show up in your body. How does that moment manifest? How does that challenge manifest as a sensation in your body right now? So once we have identified the sensations, and really remember, we are not looking for anything, we are just here being present to what is, then we can ask ourselves the question of inquiry. And this is a very, very powerful and interesting question, because it really relies on the foundation of knowing that in truth, in reality, everything is okay just the way it is. So when we ask that question, we are really checking, where are we at? What's going on? Are we at rest or are we suffering? And the question is it okay? Right now, as you're sitting here, not the moment of the circumstance, not the situation itself, but right now, as you're sitting here, with the sensations that are present, you want to ask yourself right now in this moment, are these sensations okay? And you know, this is such a curious question, right? Because so often we want to respond from the mind. We want to respond, yeah, sure, it's okay. I heard that everything is okay just the way it is. So yeah, sure, it's okay. Or we want to respond, from the memory or from the past, right? Sure, that was okay. But I'm really asking you to check right now in this moment. I'm really asking you to take this moment and really ask yourself right now in this moment, the way things are right now, the way this shows up right now, are you okay with that? Is that really okay with you? Because we want to identify that sometimes very elusive sense of I, right? So the answer can be either yes or no. Anything that is not a yes, it's a no. If it's a maybe, or, there's a little doubt, so that's a no. And if the answer is yes, we just want to sit here with what is. You just want to allow yourself to be present here just for a moment. And if the answer is no, you want to identify that no as a sensation in your body. You don't want to keep it abstract in your thoughts. When you say no, this is not okay, really notice it as a sensation in your body. And then let's just be here for a moment. I have to smile because it just usually takes very little time before, presence itself takes over, right? Before our attention shifts away from being so, plugged into what arises, and it begins to experience the spaciousness of our true nature, right? So when that happens, when that shift happens, when it naturally occurs, because we don't want to do it, right? This is just inquiry. We are just here waiting, sitting, right? So once that happens, it may manifest in a different perception. It may manifest in more stillness. It may manifest in relaxation, or suddenly, there's just a shift in your experience, and you are more here. However that happens for you, let's notice that. And then all we want is to just rest here, right? Because ultimately, what we want is to know our true nature. Ultimately, what we want is just to be here. So if you are enjoying following these steps and the inquiry process itself, I want to invite you to join me in starting on the 17th of October. For several weeks, I'm going to be teaching an inquiry program, the inquiry skills, the foundation of inquiry, also the Who Am I inquiry of Ramana. So I'm very much looking forward to this, and I hope to see you there.